Good morning, everybody, and I hope everybody is safe. My name is Lars Hein Christensen. I'd like to welcome you to the second annual or second webinar in the Teamed Up with Dustin's webinar series regarding Teams and Microsoft 365. Now, this is again the second one. The first one we held at our homes during the Corona crisis, but I'm at least back at the office. Some of the other ones are still working from home. We're hoping that you're also sort of getting back into the normal thing swing of things. Leading up to this webinar, there's a little bit confusion in regards to what today's topic was going to be. Some of you might have signed up for a webinar regarding powerful applications in Teams, and some of you might have signed up for a webinar regarding smart collaborations in functionality and features in Teams. And what we did is we decided to sort of just make a mashup, which means we have a lot to do today. We have a lot to go through. We're going to start off a little bit with some of my and Dustin's experiences with collaboration and why we see it's an important thing to focus on. Then we're just going to jump right into it and go really heavy on the features and the applications and the smart collaboration features and powerful applications. Then it's time for our What's New in Teams, our reoccurring segment. And then this time around, we're actually honored that Microsoft is going to be participating. And we have a couple of questions from our previous webinar that we would like to ask one of the Microsoft experts about. And then we're just going to finish it all off with my good colleague Marcus, who's going to talk a little bit about the offerings. So the purpose of the webinar is pretty much to give you a high-level understanding of why collaboration is important, but also just really getting into it in regards to the applications. And we hope that we can see that the crowd here is a little bit mixed. So we hope there's going to be and think there's going to be a little bit of something from all of you, for all of you. So joining me today, I've already mentioned one of them. I have two Swedish colleagues. And first off is my trusted sidekick in Malmö, Fredrik Hansen. How are you doing, Fredrik?
Hello, Lars. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Let's start off by presenting myself. My name is Fredrik Hansen. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant. I did my first Office 365 migration 7 years ago, and that customer is still being evolving within Microsoft today. My mantra is getting things done and win as a team.
Thank you, Fredrik. And my name is Marcus Andersson, and Service Product Manager for Software as a Service at Dustin. More than 15 years in the software industry, and my mantra is always strive to improve. Over to you, Lars.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a special guest. We're very honored to have you along, Sitara, today. Would you like to talk a little bit about yourself? We've had some connection issues with Sitara, so I don't know if she...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Perfect. It was a little tease. Here we go. So exactly, Microsoft and change management is what I'm really passionate about. So looking at change and from the technical and the people side of it. My background is in HR. And I guess the motto or the mantra that's close to my heart is culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Interesting. Yeah, and we'll have a little bit of a chat later on in the webinar, Sitara. So, and that leaves me, Lars Hein Christensen. As I said in the beginning, I am a 365 senior consultant here at Dustin, and have been working with Microsoft products the past 20 some years. My mantra is create and focus on value, because I believe that if the value is there, the adoption will sort of follow along. But we're going to talk a little bit about the adoption aspect of it with Sitara later on in the webinar. So before we get to it, though, before we kick it all off, last time, Fredrik, we had a basics webinar regarding the basics in Teams, right?
Yeah, we talked about the basics and team, as you said, and we talked about the chat, and you can chat one-to-one and one-to-many, and we talked about the Hubwork for team and where to create teams and channels where the most of the work is done. We talked about the design. You can change pictures and structure, use policies to decide for information all over the tenant. And we talked a little bit about security, what the actions you can take to make your teams more secure with the multi-factor authentication and the conditional access and so on. Over to you, Lars.
Yeah, and then we actually had a segment regarding working from home. At that time, we were all in the midst of the Corona thing, and some of us still are. I understand that the three of you are all sitting at home from home. I'm back at the office. That's why I have the white shirt on. Yeah, and we had a little bit of a discussion and talked a little bit about the features that sort of could help you become productive from home as well. So if you want to, if this sort of has sparked your curiosity regarding the first webinar, our good friend, or my good friend, fabulous Daniel Sundergaard, our Microsoft expert, will be manning the Q&A, and he'll post the link to the last webinar. And in general, this is the QA is going to be open. And Daniel's going to be sitting in ready to talk to you and answer some of your questions. So feel free to ask some questions if you have any inquiries in there. So let's go. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about focus, why we think it's important to focus on collaboration, and why we actually are here. So what I've been seeing and what we've been seeing is that there's a lot of trends and tendencies in the market that you pretty much have been having to live under a rock if you haven't noticed them. They're just listing up as I speak, and these trends are really disrupting all of our day-to-day work lives, and we have a lot of clients that are really getting impacted by some of these. Robotics is really is growing. The hardware robots killing some jobs, creating some other ones. You have software robots that are automating workflows and leaving people's jobless. Other places, the increased data is something that is really challenging organizations in regards to making it possible for their employees to actually find the content that they're looking for. And at the same time, increased data is also challenging all of our minds in regards to how much data can we actually comprehend. And this is where AI is sort of stepping in. So, and all of these, the common denominator of all these trends is actually having an impact on you, the organizations and the users in the organizations. And it's actually creating a sort of demand in regards to the organizations. And to illustrate this, I kind of want to just pick one of these mega trends that I'm kind of interested in and have some experience with. And that's that we're currently sort of seeing 4 to 5 generations in the marketplace. I just listed them up here, right? There's the traditionalists, 72 to 89, probably not a whole lot of those around unless you're in politics, more specifically American politics. But there's the baby boomers, the Gen X's, which is where I'm represented, the millennials and the Gen Zs. And the thing is that all of these different generations were completely different, and they bring something completely different and expect different things from their workplace and the tools that they are offered from their workplace. So just to illustrate this a little bit, I put up some characteristics of a Gen Z worker. Now, I don't know about you guys. I'm not online 10 hours a day, that's for sure. And I definitely don't see at least a minimum of 2 hours of YouTube a day. Gen Z is also very used to having knowledge at their fingertips, always being able to sort of Google something or just reach out into their network that also is online all the time. So, and then they're very interested in sharing their knowledge. So this combined with the trends in the workforce where we see more and more people becoming mobile, especially this Corona crisis really pushed that ahead. And then people are collaborating a lot more, sort of has created this demand towards or impact towards the workplaces to offer up tools and applications that sort of can facilitate collaboration, even though we're so different. And I actually have a little anecdote, and it might sort of expose my age. But I used to work, when I came into the workplace, I was an apprentice in the bank here in Denmark called Bikuben, and it's long dead. It doesn't exist anymore. But the funny thing is when I was there, I was working in a branch in downtown Copenhagen, and I was really lucky to have some of the top politicians as clients. Every once in a while, they would come down and they would ask me to do a currency transaction of some sort. And I needed some help being an apprentice, so I would ask my boss, and he would ask his boss, and so forth, and it would sort of go through the different stages of the corporation, as you can see on the right, which is my generation. So it would trickle up, and then later on it would trickle down, and finally it would end at a valuta or a currency expert. And then he would just sit there and wait for his chance to sort of showcase what is it that he could actually do. And he would then come and save the day with a big cape on and tell us how everything was to be done. So there's a reason for this happening, and that was because with my generation, a lot of people sort of kept their knowledge close to the vest, and that was because for them it was a sense of job security. And so they were just sitting and waiting for the chance to sort of to express their knowledge and show why they were getting this paycheck. Now, I don't know if you noticed on the left side, this is how Generation Z works with information. See, they sort of just send a question out into their network, and then eventually it will come back at some point. And in general, Generation Z people and other generations are more interested in posting and branding themselves. They're used to posting about where they're eating, what they're eating, where they are. So they're very much about posting and sort of branding what they can do. So there's a change in the way that we work with knowledge, and this is just 2 generations, and if you take some of the other generations, there might even be some other aspects of it as well. But this is just sort of to showcase what kind of things our clients and organizations in general are going to be impacted by, and why we think that focusing on collaboration, and more importantly, what tools that you supply your users, is important to spend some time doing. Now, for us, we've found that Teams really helps us. There's a lot of really interesting and smart features in Teams that can sort of help us out. It's, as Microsoft says, a hub for teamwork. And we decided to sort of showcase about 6 collaboration features. There's lots and lots, and we'll probably have some in the upcoming webinars as well. But we just chose 6 that we have seen out of experience with our clients that really have created value and made it so that our clients are more effective and knowledgeable. So I'm thinking, let's just dive right into all the features and applications right now. We're going to start it off with something I don't think it can get much more collaborative: co-authoring in documents, right, Frederick? Frederick, you muted your microphone. You need to unmute it, I think.
Hello. Yeah, if we go over to co-authoring on documents, we use this a lot in our teams, and recently when we created this event, actually. In these 2 examples, I have created a tab within our team and attached an Excel file where I and Lars is co-authoring on the same document. You can chat or make comments while you're editing. Second example is in Word, and we open that file by pressing Open in a desktop app. So when you use that, you can use the full power of Word. There are some limitations in opening it within Teams. For shorter session, it's fine, but we really like the desktop app a bit more. Anything else, Lars?
Yeah, I just have to agree, because it's really nice having the sort of dashboard, the sort of cockpit approach that Teams gives you, that you can just, by clicking on a tab, just jump right into the Excel spreadsheet and start working and collaborating right directly in there. But if you're working a little bit more consistently and have a little bit more complex things to do, the right thing to do is sort of open up the app itself. So now, that was the first feature. The next feature that I chose to showcase is something that really has solved a problem for me personally. Now, I've been working in Teams for a while. In the beginning, they didn't have this. And And what it is private channels, and it allows me to have a shielded dialogue with somebody, but still keep it in the right context. Usually back in the day, I would have that dialogue separate, and then the remaining dialogue of the project would happen together. So I'd have it sort of separate from each other. But by having this possibility of having a private channel, I can actually have that dialogue in the same context as I have the rest of the dialogue regarding the project. So in the example that I have here, it's a corporate operations, and you can't see it. It's a corporate operations teams, but you can't see it. And there's some extra channels there. And there's one channel in particular that I want to have to be a private one that not everybody can look at. So I made it a private. And then you can see it by the little lock icon there. And then I asked Megan and Lynn to join me in that private, so that there's a private area that we can collaborate and discuss things about the budget without the rest of the team seeing this. So a really, really effective way of pushing that collaboration, even though you need it to be a little bit secret. So if there's one thing that maybe we would want a little bit different, is the way that you sort of work with the private channels and the members of those. For instance, I have a lot of teams where I work with external partners. And what I would actually like to do is I'd like to have a team, and then I have maybe 5 channels in there. And then there's one channel where I'd like to just have that one channel, have that external person in there. So now the problem is to be able to pick people for the external channel, they have to be a member of the entire team. So as soon as I add that person to the team, they have access to all the channels. So instead, now I have to reverse it a bit so that I make all my channels private, and then I just give the external person access to that one channel. So it's a minor thing. I hope that they'll change it sometime.
And yeah, we have Microsoft with us today, Lars. So surely they will listen to you.
Yeah. Actually, there's the voice feedback website where you can sort of go and voice your feedback. And I know I'm not alone in this, and I'm pretty sure that Microsoft will be looking into this soon. So yeah, so that's what I'm hoping will happen. But again, it doesn't take away from the overall experience. It's a really powerful thing with being able to have that dialogue in the right context. So, and that kind of brings us to the
next one, Teams and Outlook. Yeah, this has been a gossip topic for as long as Team has been alive. Team Outlook email integration makes it easy to share information between email and chat with 3 new features and 1 old. Let's go through them all. From Teams to Outlook, this is the new feature in Teams. You can click the post you want to share and the dots, and you can choose Share to Outlook. You can fill in the mail of the recipient and press Send, done. It's great if you want to share some posts with a non-member of that team. And next one, yeah. Now from Outlook to Teams, the old way, the present solution. This is a bit slow. From your team channel, press Get Email Address and then copy it and put it in a mail from Outlook. This has been working for a while now, but it's not as easy as we want. So we quickly go over to the future updates. Now we're talking about great integration. Microsoft makes it easy to share information between email and chat with the add-in button to Outlook, Share to Teams. You can see it up on the right. And you can choose which channel or person you want to share your email with. You can also write a little story, a little title. This feature is not available yet, but it's on the roadmap, says 2020, so let's hope it's released soon. And the last one of Teams and Outlook integration is a function. It's a reply Teams conversation directly from Outlook. Users will get an email if they missed any activities. The missed activity email shows the latest reply from the conversation, and you can respond directly from within Outlook. This feature is not available yet either, but is also on the roadmap for 2020.
Yes, definitely something to look forward to. So now, Fredrik, staying in the vein of sort of communication we all know that we can post throughout Teams and in the channels, but there's actually a type of post that I sort of want to bring some attention to, and that's announcements. Announcements is a really smart way of communicating, because you can actually communicate across several different teams and channels. And with the advanced layout options, you have the possibility of creating a little bit bigger title, as you can see on the example and on the slide, and you can also put some graphics in there. So that really, I mean, that advanced layout option really makes it stand out and really pop. And the good thing is that it also gives you an element of control, in that you can sort of control who can actually comment on this particular post. So a really strong thing, and again, very important that you can sort of control who gets the comment and how. So, and sort of speaking of control, there's Teams templates that I also want to sort of bring some attention to. Now this allows people to populate teams with predefined configurations. So, for example, I have a client that has a lot of conferences, and every time they have a conference throughout the world, they'll start up a team with the people that are going to be preparing for this conference and then conducting the conference itself. So the problem is that if they didn't have this, they would have to every time go in and build the same team over and over again. So instead, they created a conference team template. So every time they have a new conference, they just start that up, and everything is right there ready to go. And so this is a really strong feature, and helps a lot in regards to saving time and effort with those reoccurring teams that you have. And at the same time, it also sort of heightens the recognition from the users in regards to finding where everything is, because all the teams look similar and there's sort of a uniform way about them. Now, if there's one little critique point, it's this. In this slide, you can see what is supported by templates and what isn't supported by templates. And although it has a lot of really strong capabilities, there's a couple of things that I kind of hope that that Microsoft might be implementing in this soon. So one of them is memberships. It would be really nice, for instance, like my client previously, that they would be able to have the possibility of having a predefined group of people that automatically get introduced to the new team when it's created. That isn't possible at the moment. But probably the biggest lack right now is the files and content. I have a lot of clients in the construction industry, and they really would like to be able to have certain templates that are targeted different ways of their traditional builds. So if they're building a certain building, they would use this template. And in the template, they would like to have a predefined folder structure with a lot of different documents in them, because they have a lot of standardized like template documents that sort of correspond with the project and how it progresses. And it would really be a lot of give them a lot of value if they could do that. So at the moment, it isn't quite possible, but I'm pretty sure that it will be, and it's still a very strong feature that really creates a lot of value for our clients. So, and that kind of brings us to the final one, Frederick.
The final one, yeah, and all files, either you are in Teams or in OneDrive, is stored in SharePoint library in Microsoft 365. So if you want to synchronize those files to your local computer, for example, like the good old common folder in Explorer View, you can open your team and sync and wait while OneDrive is opening in the background, and wait some seconds, and then you have a look in File Explorer View, and there they are. If you see my 2 pointers, one is in the cloud, accessible only if you have internet connection, and the green icon is stored locally on your computer, accessible offline. Regarding Teams offline, we heard that you are soon able to queue send messages while working offline, and they will be sent out once a network connection is reestablished again.
Yeah, this is actually one of the the features that I used a lot while working from home during the Corona crisis. When you're sharing the internet with the rest of the family and you have two Fortnite kids, you kind of want to get away from it all. And then sometimes I would go outside with the weather being so nice and work in the gardens. It was really nice to be able to work offline in the garden. And then as soon as I stepped in and started working from inside, I would reconnect, and then everything would get synced up. So really, really strong feature. So that was a little bit about the smart collaboration features that we decided to present this time. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot in there, and this was just some of the ones that we chose to showcase this time around. And I'm pretty sure that Fred and I will be looking into showcasing some other ones in some of the upcoming webinars. So. And that kind of brings us to the next aspect of our agenda for the webinar today, and that's the powerful applications. Now, the powerful applications really, what they do is they sort of extend the capabilities within Teams to also include outside applications. So whether you have your content in your organization but not in Teams, or you have it outside of your organization, maybe in other applications, it sort of allows you to surface that content and sort of create this one-stop shop where everything is sort of in one place. And that really creates some users that are effective and really can get to their information rather quickly. So there's a huge application, a very extensive catalog of applications right at your fingertips. And if the application that you need just isn't right there right now, there's an extensive framework that Microsoft provides that allows us and organizations to actually create applications that they can then integrate into Teams. So it's a really a good way to get some extra value out of Teams and sort of have everything just sort of synced into one place. The good thing about it also is that the apps are sort of presented throughout the application. And whether you're in a chat or you're in a channel, it's right there. You can sort of access that information from those apps. So the catalog itself is rather extensive and is constantly growing. So we've sort of picked a couple of these out. I think we picked 4 that we feel create a lot of value for our clients. And there's some of these applications that are so big that they actually demand their own or deserve their own webinar by themselves. And we definitely probably going back into that. But the first one we sort of want to showcase is something that I personally haven't used a whole lot, but I understand that Frederick and his clients are actually getting a lot of use out of, and that's the polls, right, Frederick?
Yeah, we do. And if we are talking about apps in Teams, we must mention making polls and surveys. There are 2 favorites. There are Microsoft Forms and Poly that can create real value for your company. Easily create surveys and polls to collect customer or manager feedback, measure employee satisfaction, and so on. With Poly or Forms, you have a ton of settings. It will be rating, multiple choices, reoccurring, start and close time. The answers can be both anonymous and non-anonymous. You can hide the result and much more. We can use it directly from the chat function into messages, like the picture below Forms.
Yeah, so I see that you at the bottom of this slide also have mentioned poll and survey, and there are a couple of rather new features or upcoming features in Teams. How do they sort of stack up to Poly and Forms that are heavily used at the moment?
Oh, but these 2 new Teams extensions, they are quite similar. Poll and survey will be available directly in Team Chat and channel conversation. You can click the dots at the bottom of a conversation to access these extensions, and this will be rolling out later this year.
Okay, but have you had a chance to look at them? If you were to pick between, for instance, Forms and Poly, what would you prefer of the 2?
I like Forms a bit better because it's better connected with my work account.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's probably the general thing with a lot of the applications is that the Microsoft applications are a lot more better connected and interconnected between each other. So yeah, I could see that. So actually, speaking of connected, Whobot is the application that I chose to bring with me today. And Whobot, if you guys don't know what it is, it's actually an AI bot that Microsoft has developed and is a regular feature or application in Teams. And it basically is a bot that surfaces the information and resources within your organization. And it does so by having access to your Active Directory and the posts and the activity in Teams. So what can you ask a bot? Well, actually, you can just type in help, and it'll give you some possibilities. So, for instance, I could go and then ask who is a certain name in my organization. I can go and ask if that person who that person reports to, but I can also go in and ask the Whobot a little bit more about topics, and maybe I can find some experts within my organization. So I brought two examples along, and the first one is my colleague Casper, who has just become a father and is on maternity leave. And the other day I needed to have some questions answered from him, but unfortunately he wasn't there. So what I did is I just went in and then I asked who works with Casper, and it supplied me with 15 people, Suna, which is his boss, and a variety of other ones. So it's a really good way of sort of getting and finding the around in your organization. The last example is a situation where sometimes I might not know. Frederick and Marcus and I work in a rather large organization with 2,000 plus people, and to be honest, I don't know where what everybody does, and I don't know everybody. So this is a really good way of sort of finding those hidden experts within the organization. I just asked the bot who knows something about, for instance, Office 365, and then it supplies me with 10 different people that have either created posts or have had mentions or comments on this topic. So
why am I not there?
I don't know. But did you notice I was first? Anyways, it's a really good way to sort of find those hidden experts. The only thing is that it's really heavily dependent on how enriched your AD is and how active you are in Teams. So if to really get the full value out of Whobot, it really demands that you have an AD that is groomed and that you use Teams. But if you do that, it's a really, really strong application. Now, the other application that I use a lot and has actually become there's a little bit of a buzz around this in Denmark, at least, is what I'm experiencing, is Planner. And Planner is just basically a project management application. And it's based in something called Kanban, which is a just-in-time method of work that originates from Japan and the car manufacturings. And what Planner does is it sort of facilitates the creation and organization of tasks in your organization. And then you can enrich these tasks with due dates and descriptions and start dates, and they can even be assigned to colleagues or even external partners. And when you do this, you then have the possibility of sort of organizing them and showing them in different views. Now, the first view I'd like to show is sort of the project board, and for those project managers of you, you would recognize it as a Kanban board. And what you can see here is that the tasks themselves can sort of be split into what they call buckets. It's just a way of organizing the different things. We have a project startup bucket, we have a subcontractor task bucket, and et cetera, and a finalized task bucket as well. So this is sort of the day-to-day work view where you sort of can create new tasks and you can update the tasks that are actually in progress at the moment. A really good way to work with tasks and small assignments. Now the next one then is a view of that. When you have these tasks in Planner, you can quickly get a project status view, which they call Planner charts. Here you can see how is this project progressing. Are there anything? Is there anything that's late? Is there something that is already completed, et cetera, et cetera? A really good way to sort of get a status of how is this project doing. And if you're a project manager, if you have several projects, you can go into the Planner Hub, and this is sort of a portfolio status view, where you get an overview, sort of like a dashboard of how are my projects progressing. Is there something that's not not going quite right. If I have a project that has a lot of late tasks, I might want to dive into that and sort of work with that. So it's a really effective way of working with, I'd say, smaller projects. It's gaining a lot of momentum in Denmark. We're getting a lot of buzz and a lot of interest in regards to implementing Planner the right way and sort of working it. And it works really well with teams, a really hot topic here. So, and that kind of brings us to our final application that we've decided to choose for this webinar. And you've chosen Stream, Frederick?
Yeah, I've chosen Stream because we do a lot of meeting recordings nowadays. So I would like to tell you about where they go. When you record a meeting or a presentation, it will be saved automatically in Stream. Stream makes it easy to create, share, and interact with others. You can share your recordings of classes, meetings, presentations, training sessions, or other videos that help you collaborate smarter. You can, of course, save your recordings locally as well if you want to do that. With the automatic transcription enabled, all words in the transcription become searchable metadata, easy to search in afterwards, like the picture up on the right.
Yeah, and especially the transcription feature in Stream is something that I really love. Sometimes when I'm unable to participate in a department meeting or some other meeting, I can go in and get a really quick overview of, is there anything that I need to sort of to ask about or get interested in. A really valuable and strong feature, and that it's searchable is just the cherry on the top, so to speak. So,
absolutely.
So those are. Yeah, so those are sort of the applications that we chose to showcase. And a lot of you are sitting back and say, well, there's some other applications that would be really nice to hear about, and we agree. As I said in the beginning, there's a couple of applications here that are just larger than life and really sort of alter a organization, and they're just too massive to just have as a little extra thing in this webinar, and probably will deserve their own webinars down the way. I think we're definitely going to look into some of these. One of those being Power BI, which is a business analytics service from Microsoft that really is good at visualizing business intelligence and sort of giving the users a very easy interface and way to sort of pull out their own reports and create their own dashboards based on their data. Again, a real valuable thing. Another valuable application that sort of is a little bit bigger than to fit into this webinar is Power Automate. A lot of you might know it as Flow. It was renamed back at Ignite in Orlando in last year. Seems like such a long time ago. And what Power Automate actually does is it creates automated workflows. So if you have flows that you want automated, you can sort of go into Power Automate and again with a really nice interface that's very user friendly, you can sort of drag and drop and very easily create these Power Automates. And also some pretty advanced one as well. We do a lot of these for clients. And the final one that I wanted that I definitely think also deserves its own webinar down the way, or some attention. That's Yammer. And so part of the reason is a lot of people are sort of wondering, what do we do with Yammer now that we have Teams? And Microsoft just redid Yammer, so there's a new Yammer out with a lot of better capabilities, better integration to SharePoint, better integration to Teams, etc., and a lot of really nice capabilities. And I really see this as a very important and valuable explorative social networking application that can create value and sort of really push knowledge sharing in an organization. So, and then we also didn't have time for bookings, Frederick.
No, yeah, but let's do a short pre-run of it. It's a scheduling tool. It's targeted at small businesses who provide services to customers on an appointment basis. Let's say a hairdresser to make appointments. And the next one is Zoom. It's a lot of people heard about Zoom during COVID-19, and it has a lot of active users. It's a video tool that supports conferencing, chat, and webinars. And you can even add the Zoom app in Team as well.
Yeah, but I highly doubt we're going to be having a webinar about that. But it's a nice mention. It just shows you the flexibility of Microsoft Teams, that that you can even do a Zoomcast inside of Teams. Pretty amazing. So, and this was the applications that we sort of chose at this time to present in this webinar. There's a whole catalog filled with applications, and Frederick and I will be diving into a lot of those in the upcoming webinar, so stay tuned. So, and that brings us to our reoccurring segment, What's New in Teams? Last time we touched upon some of the newer functionality that was coming out. A lot of juicy stuff back then, if you might ask. There was the background effects that we're currently using in the team meetings, the multiple windows and the raise hands in the team meetings, and also the increase of number of videos that you could simultaneously watch during a live meeting, as well as live captions. Now, all of these have actually gone live. So a really nice batch. So Frederick, do we have as nice a batch this time around? I don't know. Are they as juicy as the last ones?
Yeah, there are some new exciting features, but not as many as the last webinar. If we start with a feature that is already here, but needs some explaining. Yes, end meeting for everyone. Meeting organizers have the options to end the meeting for all participants. Don't take this for the original red button, leave. So when you leave a meeting, you only leave the meeting. And if you press end meeting, it will end the meeting entirely. So no one can stay behind after you left. And if we go over to the next one here, it's turn off incoming video. In the last webinar, we got a question about this when we talked about muting incoming sound. Now meeting organizers can also shut down incoming video for all users, same as with the sound.
Stuff. And then I hear something about noise reduction. I'm seeing a leaked video with a bag of potato chips and a girl or something. What's that all about, Frederick?
Yeah, noise reduction is on its way. And when you're sitting in an open environment, for example, at work, it will help you sort out the background noises. So the participant can focus on what's really matter, to hear your voice loud and clear. Same as with thoughts about blur my background.
Okay, that's a really useful feature. I know that when I'm out working about, actually Corona would have been nice with that, with all the kids running around. So that's going to be a nice feature to get eventually. So now the next feature that's on its way is something that I kind of have been waiting for as well. It's the channel info pane. And now it's basically a summary. It displays a summary of your channel, and the summary sort of consists of a channel description. It lists the recent contributors and the members. And today I sort of have adopted the wiki in a team to have the same feature. So when I onboard new people to a project, I kind of have a wiki where I have all the important information, like the channel description and things of that nature. This will be a nice change to that, because it also has recent contributors and members. And as another thing, which is also a new feature, it'll also have pinned posts. So what pinned post does, it actually will keep the important information easily accessible by pinning it to the info pane. So if you have a post that you sort of want to alert the rest of the team to and always have at the ready, you can pin it to the info pane. It's a really good way of, again, sort of having the project information at a central place where everybody can get to it. Again, if people want to see the project deadlines or the project sponsors or the description or whatever. So it's coming in July. I can't wait to actually see it and try to work in it a bit. And then we have Microsoft Lists, Frederick. This I've been hearing a lot about.
Yeah, it's probably going to get a big favorite from many people. Yeah, and this is a new application where you can create lists, share, and access recent and favorite lists. You can work with them directly within Teams. You can Yeah, you can collaborate within Teams with the list as well. And it has templates with the common scenarios with the pre-configured structure, forms, views, and formatting. More Microsoft list in a future webinar, and I believe it will be rolled out this summer.
Yeah, I definitely see this having its own webinar. I've just been seeing some of the videos from Microsoft, and there's a lot of really interesting ways to work with data within your organization by using lists. So yeah, and the integration to Teams is really, really amazing and very valuable. So yeah, we should definitely have a webinar about that later on. And the last one is the pop-up meeting.
Yes, pop-up meeting. We talked about this last time with you can pop out chat and functions like that, but this time it's multi-window or pop-out as coming to Teams, and this time it's meeting and calling to get affected. Users will have the ability to pop out meetings and callings into separate windows to help them work more simultaneously. So you can read and get access from another program or within Teams while you are in the meeting. That's one thing I have been waiting for, at least.
Yeah, and this is sort of in the same family as the multi-window capability we had last time. We always have a workaround. We also mentioned it last time. When you're working in Teams, work in the client itself, but then also have Teams open in the browser view, so that you have two teams to sort of to interchange between, because then you can sort of navigate in one and have, for instance, a meeting in another. With this, you won't have to do it as much anymore, but it's still a really good tip to have at the ready. And this will definitely help a lot, that you can sort of pop out the meeting and still work and search your information in Teams. So a really, really strong feature. I can't wait for that to come. When is that coming, Frederick?
Yeah, it's coming June, so it's June already. So
oh, okay.
Hopefully soon.
Well,
hopefully soon.
We'll see if it's there later on today.
Yeah.
So this was actually the applications that and the news that we were going to talk a little bit about today, and it kind of brings us to the segment that I talked about early, which was Ask Microsoft, and I'd like to introduce Sitara back. Hi, Sitara. You need to unmute.
I saw I did. Well,
yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, Sitara. At last webinar, we had a lot of really, really interesting questions, and some of them were actually pertaining a little bit to adoption. Now, we have a lot of experience with this as well and have some input, but we thought it would be nice to sort of hear your take on it. Now, one of the questions was, what are the main keys to a successful adoption of Teams? Do you have a little bit of input in regards to that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because at the end of the day, when we implement change, the adoption of change is where we're trying to get to, right? So knowing all of these things that you mentioned, which is really cool, all of the new tips and tricks and so on, that's one thing. But doing and applying the changes, that's where we can really see the ROI, the value of the change. And I think when you're looking at, so what's a successful adoption then? That's understanding the fact that it's people in the organization that need to do this. So we're talking about functions and features and the whole technology aspect of it, which is really important, of course. But without people applying these changes, then it won't be effectful. So it's the same thing when you're planning to change something in your personal life or in an organization. You need to have the technical aspects, the know-how, but also the people aspects, and try to spark the motivation or why should I change? You know, how will this change affect me, and so on.
I could see that. We have a lot of experience. What I usually say to clients that are embarking on their Teams journey is that you really need to, it's an ongoing process having people adopt to Teams, because you're actually changing people habits. And if exactly. I know I don't personally smoke, but I've seen other people that have smoked, and just that changing of a habit, it just takes a lot, because it's so human to sort of revert back to what you've usually been doing. So I could definitely.
And it's also, just to add to that, we're people at the end of the day. And if we just look at us from an evolutionary standpoint, change and, the unknown is not anything that we're comfortable with. It's a lot of fear connected to that. So having that just in mind and building in a plan for it in your roadmap, that's key to success, I think.
Yeah, and we've been seeing this in Dustin, and we're actually working on some adoption tools that some of our clients are going to be having access to that sort of can help them along on that road. So now the other question we had was a little bit what your experiences was in regards to what soft skills that would be important for our clients to have in regards to adopting teams. Do you have any views about that?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's just like we're dividing them into like technical and people. Then we have a tendency to look at skills like hard and soft skills, and they also, of course, go hand in hand. I have a long list, but for me to choose the most important ones that I want to highlight, and I think it's good to have as a reminder, I would boil it down to 3 aspects. So the communication in the organization, be able to communicate why, what, how, keep the transparency throughout the change progress. And the number 2, I would boil 2 together and then call it flexibility and curiosity. A lot of the customers that I work with come to me and ask, what's the one way? Can you give us the one size fits all kind of thing? And there is no such thing. You have to stay flexible and open and curious to find what works for you. And the last thing I would say is engagement. So being involved and encouraging people to be involved in the change. So that's when you take ownership of the change as well. You don't want to feel that the change is happening to you. You're co-creating it. That's where we want to get to.
That's a really valid point. Well, you know what? Thank you very much for dropping by and giving us some of your perspectives on adoption of teams. I hope that we can invite you back some other time.
Pleasure is all mine.
That sounds good. Thank you very much, Satara.
Thank you.
So that sort of brings us to the last part of our webinar, and Marcus, if you're still there. We'd very much like to hear a little bit about what we can help our clients do and what we're helping our clients do every single day today.
Of course. So today we have all kinds of offerings from Dustin, and when it comes to Teams and Office 365, we start with the basic workshops. That's an intro to both Office 365 and SharePoint in Teams. So that's when you're in the beginning of your journey to Teams and Office 365. Then we have SharePoint and Teams. We have small, medium, large, and advanced, and that's also quite depending on where we are on your journey and the size of your company. So if you have been working with Teams for a while, then maybe the advanced workshop would be a good idea. We also have offerings when it comes to user training. So if you want to adopt Teams to all the users in your company, we can set up user training in different sessions for the users. We also talked a little bit about Power Apps today. Both Frederick and Lars have mentioned some of them. We can send up introduction Power Apps workshop, and then we also have the Power Automated workshop, formerly known as Flow. Of course, today we have travel restrictions, and all of these can be delivered online as well as on site.
Really good, really good. And Power Apps is also something, the functionality is also something that Frederick and I probably will be looking into in some of the upcoming webinars as well. So really good stuff, yeah.
Sounds good, Lars, sounds good. Also want to mention that, as you all know, that Expo was cancelled in March. So we will have Dustin Expo Connected as a virtual event in the middle of September with the theme "How 3 years of digital transformation happened in 3 weeks." As you can see, there is an Expo site in each country, and I encourage you to sign up for this virtual event in September.
And it's free, right?
It's of course it's totally free.
Good.
Yes,
Good.
Both of the days.
That's really interesting. I hope to see a lot of you people at that expo. See in quotation marks, and hopefully again we'll be able to conduct a Dustin Expo soon, where we can invite you in up to Stockholm or as well. So thank you, Marcus. So that was our program for today. I hope that you found some value in some of the things that we said. If you want to revisit this, we'll be sending you an email after this webinar that will give you a link to the video. And also, there's been some questions along during the present or the webinar itself, and we'll also post the answers to those questions. So stay tuned. We're going to be presenting some more webinars in the near future. We might talk a little bit about live meetings. We might talk about projects in Teams. We might talk about some of the other aspects of Microsoft 365, SharePoint, and maybe even some perspectives from an IT admin. So stay tuned, and thanks for taking your time to spend an hour with us today. And we hope you all stay safe and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye bye.